It all started 2 weeks ago when the clock struck 3 a.m. and I found myself jolting awake, heart pounding, as if I had just run a marathon. At first, I thought it was just stress or maybe too much coffee before bed, but then it happened again and again. Every single night, like clockwork, I woke up at exactly 3 a.m., my body drenched in cold sweat, my chest tight, and my mind racing with panic. It wasn't just the waking, it was the overwhelming feeling of being watched. One night, as I lay there frozen in terror, I could feel someone standing over me, their eyes boring into my soul. My hand trembled as I reached for the lamp, but when the light flickered on, there was nothing, just empty space where the presence had been. Yet the air felt heavy, charged with something I couldn't explain. The worst part? It wasn't just that one time. Every night since, the sensation returned, growing stronger each time. Some nights I swore I heard faint whispers, so soft they could have been the wind, but they sent chills down my spine. The fear became so intense that I couldn't bear to sleep alone anymore. I begged my husband to stay up with me, even though he looked exhausted and confused. "There's something wrong," I whispered one night, clutching his arm as we sat together in silence. He tried to reassure me, saying it was just anxiety, but deep down I knew it was more than that. This wasn't normal. Something or someone was haunting me, and I didn't know how to make it stop. Each morning I woke up more drained than the last, carrying not only the weight of sleepless nights, but also the gnawing dread of what awaited me after sunset. The frustration of waking up at 3 a.m. had become unbearable. Every night I tried something new, adjusting my pillow to the perfect fluffiness, turning down the thermostat to that so-called ideal sleep range of 60, 67 degrees, even experimenting with different sleeping positions. But nothing worked. If anything, it felt like the problem was getting worse, as though my body was rebelling against every attempt I made to fix it. One particularly chilling night, after waking up drenched in sweat and gasping for air, I decided to sit up slowly and reach for the glass of water on my nightstand. But as I moved, a wave of dizziness hit me so hard that the room spun violently around me. My vision blurred, and before I knew it, my head was pounding, and I collapsed back onto the bed, barely conscious. Panic surged through me, but the real terror came when I heard my husband's voice trembling as he called out, "Are you okay?" His face hovered above mine, pale with fear. He immediately dialed emergency services, his hands shaking so badly he could barely press the numbers on his phone. When the paramedics arrived, they hooked me up to machines checking my blood pressure, heart rate, and oxygen levels. After what felt like an eternity, the doctor finally said those infuriating words. "It's probably stress-related. We can't find any physical cause." Stress? Was he serious? How could something as vague as stress explain why I couldn't sleep or why I'd almost passed out just trying to drink water? That diagnosis, or lack thereof, left me feeling more hopeless than ever. The strategies I'd read about online, the tips from friends who swore by lavender oil or white noise machines, none of it mattered anymore. It wasn't just exhaustion, it was despair. Each failed attempt chipped away at my confidence, leaving me questioning whether I'd ever feel normal again. My husband tried to reassure me, saying things like, "We'll figure this out," but his optimism only made me angrier. Didn't he understand how powerless I felt? Didn't he see that no matter what I did, the outcome was always the same? Another restless night, Another morning spent staring blankly at the ceiling while fatigue consumed me. What scared me most was the growing sense that I was losing control, not just of my sleep, but of everything. During the day, I snapped at coworkers over minor mistakes and found myself zoning out during conversations. At home, I avoided family dinners because I didn't have the energy to fake a smile. Even simple tasks, like folding laundry or answering emails, felt insurmountable. The person I used to be, the one who thrived on productivity and positivity, felt like a distant memory. And yet, despite all this, I kept searching for answers, clinging to the hope that somewhere, somehow, there was a solution I hadn't tried yet. But deep down, doubt crept in. What if the doctors were right? What if this wasn't something external I could fix? It was internal, rooted in emotions I hadn't confronted. That thought terrified me more than anything else. Because if it wasn't my environment or my habits causing these sleepless nights, then what was it? And how could I fight something I couldn't see or touch? It was during one of those restless nights as I lay awake at 3:17 a.m. that I realized something was terribly wrong with my body. Despite drinking what felt like gallons of water throughout the day, I still woke up parched, my throat feeling as though it had been scorched by desert winds. Each time I opened my eyes in the dark, the first thing I craved was water, cold, refreshing hydration to quench the inferno raging inside me. But no matter how much I drank, the thirst never fully subsided. It wasn't just uncomfortable, it was alarming. My skin felt dry, my energy levels were plummeting, and there was an unsettling tightness in my chest as if my body were screaming for something more than just liquid. It needed life itself. One fateful night, driven by desperation, I stumbled out of bed to grab the glass of water I kept on my nightstand. The room was pitch black, save for the faint glow of the clock, and in my haste I misjudged the distance between the bed and the table. My foot caught on the edge of the rug, sending me crashing to the floor. Pain shot through my ankle, sharp and searing, leaving me gasping for air. For a moment, I sat there frozen, clutching my leg, afraid to move. When I finally limped back to bed, every step sent waves of agony coursing through me. The injury made moving around even harder, adding another layer of frustration to my already unbearable insomnia. But the strangest and most chilling moment came a few nights later. As I reached for the glass of water I had prepared earlier, I noticed something odd. The water, which I had deliberately left at room temperature, now felt icy cold against my fingertips. My breath hitched as I hesitated, staring at the glass in disbelief. How could this be? Had someone come into the room while I slept and swapped it out? Or was my mind playing tricks on me again? Tentatively, I brought the glass closer, the condensation dripping down my fingers like tears. When I took a sip, the liquid hit my tongue with a shocking intensity, colder than anything I'd ever tasted. It was as though the water itself carried some unnatural chill, freezing not just my mouth but also creeping into my bones. This bizarre incident only deepened my growing sense of unease. Every sip of water seemed to mock me, offering temporary relief but never truly satisfying the relentless thirst that plagued me. It wasn't just dehydration anymore. It felt like my body was being drained of its very essence, as if some unseen force was leaching away my vitality drop by drop. And yet, despite the fear gnawing at my insides, I couldn't stop drinking. What choice did I have? Without water, I knew I wouldn't last long. But with each glass, I wondered, was I hydrating myself or feeding something else? Every night as the clock struck 3 a.m., I found myself trapped in an emotional storm that seemed to grow fiercer with each passing day. The darkness of my room became a canvas for memories I had long tried to bury, especially those of my mother. Her face would appear vividly before me, not as it was in her final days, but as she had been in her prime, smiling warmly, her eyes filled with love. But there was something unsettling about her presence now. Her smile didn't comfort me. Instead, it felt like a silent accusation, as if she were reminding me of all the things I hadn't said or done when she was still alive. Each time this vision faded, I was left hollow, grappling with guilt and regret that gnawed at my soul. The nightmares began shortly after these nightly visitations. In one recurring dream, I was always locked inside a pitch-black room, its walls closing in on me no matter how hard I pushed against them. The air grew heavier with every passing second, suffocating me until I woke up gasping for breath. These dreams weren't just frightening, they felt real, as though they carried fragments of unresolved pain from my past. During the day, I tried to brush them off, telling myself they were merely stress-induced hallucinations. But deep down, I knew better. Something darker lingered beneath the surface, and it refused to let me rest. What made everything worse was the loneliness. My husband and children dismissed my struggles as just stress, their casual reassurances doing little to ease the weight pressing on my chest. They couldn't understand why I spent hours staring blankly into space or why I cried silently in the shower. I wanted to explain, to pour out everything that haunted me, but the words stuck in my throat. How could I make them see what I couldn't even comprehend myself? One particularly harrowing night, desperate for relief, I decided to write in my journal, a suggestion I'd read online about processing emotions. Sitting cross-legged on my bed, pen trembling in hand, I began scribbling furiously. At first, the words flowed freely. Raw confessions of grief, anger, and fear spilled onto the page. But then something strange happened. As I paused mid-sentence, the pen twitched in my grip, and suddenly new words appeared on the paper, written in handwriting that wasn't mine. My heart stopped as I stared at the unfamiliar scrawl. "You're not alone." Panic surged through me. Was I imagining this? Had exhaustion finally driven me mad? I dropped the pen and backed away, clutching the blanket tightly around me. But the message remained there, stark and undeniable, as if someone or something was reaching out to me from beyond. That moment shattered whatever semblance of normalcy I had clung to. It wasn't just insomnia anymore. It was something far more sinister, something I couldn't escape. And yet, despite the terror coursing through me, part of me wondered, was this a warning or was it help? It was another restless night, the kind that had become all too familiar. My body felt like a prison of tension, every muscle screaming for relief. I decided to try something I had read about in one of those sleep improvement articles, gentle stretching. Sitting up slowly, I began with small neck rolls, letting my head drop forward and then roll side to side. At first, it seemed to help. The stiffness in my shoulders started to ease, and I could almost feel the knots loosening. But then, as I tilted my head back, a faint sound reached my ears, a whisper so soft it might have been the wind. Except it wasn't. The voice came again, clearer this time, calling my name from somewhere in the shadows near the corner of the room. My blood ran cold. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice trembling. I fumbled for the lamp, my fingers shaking as I turned it on. The light flooded the room, revealing nothing but the usual furniture and empty space. Yet the air felt heavier, charged with an invisible presence. I told myself it was just my imagination, stress manifesting in strange ways. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. The next morning, as I attempted to stretch again, disaster struck. Midway through a simple hamstring stretch, a sharp pain shot through my calf, followed by an uncontrollable spasm. My entire leg seized up, locking me in place. Panic surged through me as I realized I couldn't move, not even to crawl toward the phone or call for help. For what felt like an eternity, I lay there, paralyzed, my heart pounding so hard it echoed in my ears. When the cramp finally subsided, I collapsed onto the floor, drenched in sweat and gasping for air. But the worst part came later that day. While brushing my teeth, I caught sight of something strange on my arm, a large, dark bruise blooming across my skin. I stared at it in disbelief. How had I not noticed this before? I racked my brain, trying to remember if I'd bumped into anything recently, but nothing came to mind. As I traced the edges of the bruise with my fingertips, a chilling thought crossed my mind. What if someone or something had done this while I slept? Each new discovery only deepened the sense of dread that had taken root in my chest. Simple movements now felt dangerous, as though my body was betraying me in ways I couldn't control. Even the stretches that were supposed to bring relief left me feeling more vulnerable than ever. Every creak of the floorboards, every shadow in the corner of the room became a potential threat. Sleep, once elusive, now seemed downright terrifying. And yet, despite the fear gnawing at my insides, I couldn't stop searching for answers. Something was happening to me, something far beyond insomnia, and I needed to understand why. Desperate for relief, I turned to sound therapy, hoping it would finally calm my restless mind. Pink noise had been recommended as a natural remedy for insomnia, so one night after yet another 3 a.m. awakening, I decided to give it a try. The soft hum of rain and distant ocean waves filled the room, wrapping me in what should have been a soothing cocoon. But something felt off. At first, the sounds lulled me into a false sense of security, but then I began hearing faint footsteps, light, deliberate taps that seemed to circle my bed. My heart raced as I strained to listen, trying to convince myself it was just an auditory illusion caused by the pink noise. Yet no matter how hard I tried to rationalize it, the sensation of being watched grew stronger with each passing second. The next evening, I attempted guided meditation, seeking solace in the calming voice of a narrator leading me through relaxation exercises. As I closed my eyes and focused on my breathing, the familiar rhythm of the instructions started to soothe me until suddenly I saw it. A shadowy figure darted across my vision, even though my eyes were shut tight. It wasn't just fleeting, it lingered, dark and menacing, before vanishing as quickly as it appeared. Panic gripped me, and I ripped out my earphones, gasping for air. Was this all in my head, or was something or someone trying to reach me? Things escalated further when my phone rang at midnight. Startled, I reached for it, only to see an unfamiliar number flashing on the screen. Against my better judgment, I answered. Instead of a voice, I was met with an eerie silence punctuated by labored breathing, followed by low, muffled sobs that sent chills down my spine. "Hello," I whispered, my voice trembling. There was no response, just the haunting echo of despair before the line went dead. I stared at the phone, unable to shake the feeling that whoever or whatever had called knew exactly who I was. But the most unsettling incident occurred during another attempt at meditation. This time, I opened an app I'd used countless times before, expecting the usual serene guidance. However, as the session began, a voice emerged from the speakers, not the narrators, but mine. It spoke words I hadn't recorded, phrases that sounded alien yet eerily personal, as if they came from a version of me I didn't recognize. "You can't escape," it murmured, chilling me to my core. I yanked the headphones off and threw the phone across the room, convinced I was losing my grip on reality. Each experience left me more shaken than the last. What was happening to me? Was it stress manifesting in bizarre ways? Or was there something darker in play? Every attempt to find peace only deepened the chaos, leaving me trapped in a cycle of fear and exhaustion. Sleep, once elusive, now felt impossible, and the night stretched endlessly before me like a void I couldn't escape. The relentless cycle of sleepless nights had finally taken its toll, unraveling every aspect of my life. At work, I was no longer the meticulous professional I once prided myself on being. My reports were riddled with errors, numbers mismatched, sentences incomplete, and it didn't go unnoticed. One morning during a team meeting, my boss snapped at me in front of everyone. "This isn't like you," he said coldly, his voice dripping with disappointment. His words stung more than usual because deep down, I knew he was right. I wasn't myself anymore. The exhaustion had seeped into my mind, clouding my judgment and stealing my focus. Each mistake felt like another nail in the coffin of my career. At home, things were even worse. My husband and children, once my refuge, now seemed distant, strangers sharing the same roof. They could understand why I snapped over trivial matters or why I spent hours staring blankly into space. "You're always so tired," my husband muttered one evening, his tone laced with frustration. My kids avoided me altogether, whispering to each other when they thought I wasn't listening. Their distance cut deeper than any insult ever could. It wasn't just my body that was breaking. It was my family, my foundation. The fear of losing them gnawed at me as much as the dread of losing my job. One night, as I prepared for bed, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror and froze. Staring back at me was someone unfamiliar, someone hollow-eyed and gaunt, their expression twisted with anguish. Was this really me? Or was it something else? My reflection tilted its head slightly, as if mocking me, and I stumbled backward, heart pounding. That moment crystallized everything: the despair, the isolation, the feeling that I was losing control not just of my life, but of my very identity.